the way that you say conceive or pregnant in Hebrew is hara. Hara. Are there any Israelite slaves with names similar to the way that you say conceive or pregnant in Hebrew, which is hara? Are there any Israelites with that name? Let's type in hara. Scroll down. Make our search. We typed in the name hara. Okay. And you see a man with that name. Okay. Hara. All right. And it's another one. It says harai. But dealing with the first one, it says hara. So there you have it, which, like I said, some of these names are mixed up. Really, it should be a woman with that name. Okay. But it's a Hebrew name. It is a Hebrew name. So that's the point. Now, go on to Genesis chapter 21, verse 1. And Yahweh visited Sarah as he had said, and Yahweh did unto Sarah as he had spoken. For Sarah conceived and bare Abraham a son in his old age, at the set time of which the Most High had spoken to him. Now, for conceived, we're going to look up conceived. Look at that. There it is. For conceived, it's hara. They give you the Strong's number. You can look all this up yourself. Hara. Okay. Strong's definition. To be or become pregnant. Conceive. There you have it. Okay. So you have the name hara right there. Hebrew name. The Hebrew word for cover, soothsaying, or witchcraft is ainun. Ainun. Are there any Israelite slaves with the Hebrew name for cover, soothsaying, or witchcraft, which the Hebrew word would be ainun? Let's type that in and see what we get. Another thing to remember is that the Israelites were heavy into witchcraft in West Africa. Oh, would you look at that? There's a lot of people with that name for soothsaying and witchcraft. The Hebrew word is ainun. At the top, you have ainunah. But let's get pinpoint accurate. There's a woman with that name, another woman with that name, a man with that name, another man with that name, another man with that name. Going down to the bottom, another female, and another female with that name, ainun. Hebrew word for soothsaying and witchcraft. Leviticus chapter 19, verse 26. Ye shall not eat anything with the blood, neither shall ye use enchantment nor observe times. Let's look that up. In the blue letter, Leviticus chapter 19, going to verse 26. Oh, for observed times, the Hebrew word is Ainun. Ainun. Strong's definition. It means to cover. All right, as in a cloud, how a cloud overshadows you. Figuratively, to act covertly, i.e., practice magic. All right, bring enchanter. Okay, nimin, observed times, soothsayer, sorcerer, because Jake was heavy into witchcraft in West Africa. Very heavy. And they brought it to Haiti. Okay? They brought it to Louisiana. They brought it to South America. Jake was heavy into witchcraft. Very heavy. So that's why Israelites had that name Ainun. Hebrew word for witchcraft. The way that you say plant or a vineyard in Hebrew is kana. Kana. We're going to see if any Israelite slaves had names similar to the way you say plant or a vineyard in Hebrew, which is kana. All right, so gonna make that search and let's see what we find. We know that you scoffers hate this, but there's nothing you can do about it. Not a damn thing. Okay. Oh yeah, we got some good stuff. Let me zoom in here. All right. You have the ID 40781 Kana. All right, and this person is 30 years old. It's a man. Okay. You see the name Kana right there on your face, which is the way you say plant in Hebrew. Psalms chapter 80 verse 1. Give ear, O shepherd of Israel, thou that leadest Joseph like a flock. Thou that dwellest between the cherubims, shine forth before Ephraim and Benjamin and Manasseh. Stir up thy strength and come and save us. Okay. Now, when you read this chapter, Israel, we're called the Lord's vine. Okay, we're called his vineyard in this chapter. Okay. Verse 8. Thou hast brought a vine out of Egypt. Thou hast cast out the heathen and planted it. All right. So that vine is talking about the Israelites. The Lord brought us out of Egypt and he planted us in the land of Israel. Okay. Verse 14, return, we beseech thee, O God of hosts, look down from heaven and behold and visit this vine and the vineyard which thy right hand hath planted and the branch that thou madest strong for thyself. Now in verse 15, we're going to look up that word vineyard. Psalms chapter 80 and verse 15 for that word vineyard. Look at that. It's kana. Kana. Okay. Hey, this is beautiful, man. This truth is beautiful. Kana, which means a plant or a vineyard. And there were Israelites with that name. And it makes sense because that name symbolizes Israel. We're the Lord's plant. We are his vineyard. Kana. Look at that, man. Call halal YAHAWAHSHI YAHAWAHSHI for this truth. Okay? Beautiful. The way that you say light in Hebrew is a war. A war. Now let's see if there are any Israelites with names similar to the way that you say light in the Hebrew, which is a war. Let's see if there are any Israelites with the name a war. Gonna type in a war. Hebrew word for light. Let's see what we find. Oh, would you look at that? Would you look at that? A war. Now, it has two R's on the end. Nonetheless, it's the same name. Okay? You see, it's a female with that name. It's a boy with that name. Okay? You have people that have a war, a part of their name. Okay? At the beginning. Look at that. A war Y, which is to say a war the sixth, because Y is the sixth Hebrew character. So a war Y, a war the sixth. Okay? So, I mean, come on. We had Hebrew names in Africa. The slaves had Hebrew names. This is just more proof. Okay? A war. Look at that. Look at that, man. A war Y. A war the sixth. Okay? Let's prove the way you say light is a war. Plain and simple. Plain and simple. The book of Genesis. Genesis chapter 1 and verse 3. And God said, God is talking about the powers, the angels. Let there be light, and there was light. Let's look that up. All right. Back in the blue letter, Genesis chapter 1, verse 3. Look this up. Look at that. Look at that. A war. Hebrew word for light. A war. Strong's definition. A war. Now, the so-called Jews, they don't have the real Hebrew, so you have to excuse their pronunciations. We have the real Hebrew, okay? We have the real pronunciation. So the way you say it is a war, which means illumination, or simply put, light, okay? Light. There were Israelites that had the name a war. The Hebrew word for father is Abba. Abba. Are there any Israelites with the Hebrew name for father, which is Abba? Let me type in Abba. See what I get. If I'll get anything. Look at that. Abba. Right at the top. There's a man with that name. Now that's right. It should be a man with that name because it means father. Okay? Beautiful thing. All right. You see a boy with that name. 3 boys with that name. Abba. Okay, so that's on point. That's on point. And you see it at the top. There's a man with that name. That name means father. Okay? Genesis chapter 2. Genesis chapter 2 and verse 24. Therefore shall a man leave his father and his mother, and shall cleave unto his wife, and they shall be one flesh. Looking that word father up in the Hebrew in Genesis chapter 2. Genesis chapter 2. Okay. Abba. The way you say it is Abba. Okay? Which simply means father. Okay, you see it. Father. Israelites in West Africa had that name. All right? The way that you say mother in Hebrew is Amma. Amma. Now let's see if there were any so-called Negroes, so-called Negro slaves that had the name Amma, which is the Hebrew word for mother. So I'm going to type in Amma, and let's see what we find. Oh, look at that. Look at that there at the top. It says mama. And it's a woman with that name. So mama comes from Amma. Just like you see a lot of so-called Negroes, they call their mothers mama. Well, that goes back to Amma, which is the Hebrew word for mother. So you Jakes, you didn't get that in slavery, where you call your mothers mama. You were calling women mama going back to when you were in West Africa. Mama comes from Amma, which is the Hebrew way you say mother. The Hebrew word for mother, okay? Let's see what else we can find. I'm going to go to the points, okay? The scriptures say that we declare the Lord's knowledge exactly. So I'm going to get exact words, as exact as I can. All right. Now down at the bottom here, it says Amma. It says Amma, which is a boy with that name, and that's off. It should not be a boy with the name Amma, because Amma means mother. So that's off. That is off. Nonetheless, we had Hebrew names, okay? So you see the point. Now I'm going to type in Amma with an H on the end. And let's see what we find. Because every single word that you see on here, you know, every word isn't going to be as precise as you want it to be, but we get as close as we can. Like I said, we declare the knowledge exactly. As exact as we can with what's provided us. All right, I'm going to go to page 2. All right, Amma. You see that there? Amma. And it's a man with that name. And that's off. A man shouldn't have that name because Amma means mother. Okay? But for the sake of proving a point, I'm going to type in mama. Because like I said, mama comes from Amma. Okay? Mama. You see that? It's a lot of names. and it's men with those names or with that name, and that's off. It shouldn't be like that. This just proves the fact that we are the Israelites, okay? You see that we had Hebrew names, or we had names very similar to the Hebrew, okay? Mama. See that? A woman with that name. Mama goes back to Amma, Hebrew word for mother. That's the point, okay? Now let's get the scriptures. Genesis chapter 28. Let's see here. 28 and verse 7. And that Jacob obeyed his father and his mother and was gone to Padanaram. Okay. Now, looking up that word mother. Genesis chapter 28, verse 7. The word for mother, Amma, Amma. And they have Eem. It's not Eem or I'm. It's Amma. It is Amma. And it means mother. Okay? All right, and this is another site here. But since I'm on here, let me see if I can type in Amma on here. Okay. Like I said, there were a lot of slaves with these names. With these Hebrew names. Okay. All right. Type in Amma on here. Let's see what we get. Look at that. Amma. There's a woman with that name. A female. I mean, she's a young girl. She's 10, but she has the name Amma. All right. There's another female. She's 12. She has the name Amma. Hebrew word for mother. Okay, so the proof is in the pudding. We had Hebrew names. Laban in Hebrew is Laban. Laban. Let's see if there are any Israelites with the name Laban, which really is Laban, which some people say Laban already. Okay? They're spelled the same, the exact same way. So I'm going to type this in. Laban. Let's see what we find. Call halal, YAHAWAHSHI. Lord will, your eyes are open to this information if you are new to the fact of us being Israelites. Okay. To be exact, there's someone with that name. It's a woman. Okay. She was 30 years old. She has the name Laban. You know, which is known for being a man's name. Okay. Nonetheless, it's a Hebrew name. All right. Genesis chapter 24 and verse 29. And Rebekah had a brother, and his name was Laban. Some people say Laban, but it's Laban. And Laban ran out unto the man unto the well. Now, let's look his name up and see what it means. Okay. Genesis chapter 24, verse 29. For Laban all right. It doesn't say much, but it says the same as H3836. All right, which this Strong's number is H3837. Okay, so let's click on H3836. It says Laban, and it means white. Okay, so his name means white. Another thing, too, you so-called white people, you're not white. You're not Laban. Okay? You are Edomites. You're red. Okay? You are red people. Okay? So some of our people in West Africa had that name Laban. Okay? Which let me type that in on here. Which this is all the same. It says African origins, but they're a part of slavevoyages.org. It's all the same. It's all interconnected. All right. Same information. And we are not Africans. That is being exposed. We are Israelites. Okay. The name Laban. Once again, you see a female with that name. All right. But there it is. And I'm pretty sure there were men with that name too. But we take what we can get. This all proves that we are Israel. You have all these Hebrew names. You can't get around it. The way that you say covenant or confirmation in Hebrew is amana. Amana. Are there any Israelites that had the Hebrew name for covenant or confirmation, which is amana? Let's test that theory. I'm going to type in amana. Type it in this way. See what we get. All right. You see it at the top there. There's a boy with that name. Okay. He was 7 years old. All right. He boarded the Anna Maria ship. Okay. His name is Amana. Hebrew word for confirmation or covenant. Okay. Now, let's type in Amana with an H on the end. Let's see what we get. All right. The third name is the point. There's a woman with that name. 19 years old. Okay. Amana. Okay, so these are Hebrew names. Hebrew. Not African. Not Hamitic. Okay? They are Shemitic. Okay? Shum. Hebrew names. Hebraic. Okay? Hebrew origin. Purely. Nehemiah chapter 9, verse 38. And because of all this, we make a sure covenant and write it, and our princes, Levites, and priests seal unto it. Let's look covenant up in that verse. Nehemiah chapter 9 and verse 38. Clicking on that. All right, now we go back. Salakia. Look at that there. Look at that. The word for covenant is amana. You see? Do you see this? Do you see that? Do you see the similarity? Okay. Come on now. Amana. No getting around it. You see that. Okay. Going back. Amana. Okay. Get the Strong's definition. Amana. Something fixed, i.e. a covenant. An allowance, certain portion, sure. Okay? To make something sure. A covenant. No getting around it. And the Lord only made a covenant with Israel. He made that amana with Israel. Kal halal YAHAWAHSHI. Kal halal YAHAWAHSHI. Waha Rakak Wadash. This is the truth that we have, and we just have to fight to keep it. Kal halal YAHAWAHSHI. The water, Aman.